Good evening, guys. How are you doing? How is Market 76 doing today? So, following on from the last video I did, which looked at defining godrolls, commando weapons specifically in Fallout 76, just to give you newer traders the better idea of which guns you have in your inventory that are going to be valuable. Today I'm going to look at heavy weapons. And compared to commandos, this is going to be a much shorter video and a lot easier to go into, because really heavy weapons, there aren't too many combinations of rolls that equate to a god roll for heavy weapons. So we'll jump straight into it. You'll have to excuse the left-hand side, which is maybe I'll do a separate video on this, but this is like all my lever rifles that I've collected, thanks to a lot of the trading community who helped me out with these over the past few years. Anyway, I digress. So, as with commando weapons and most other weapon types, the one things you're going to be looking for are anti-armor, bloodied, quad, and vampire. The main difference with other weapon types, however, with heavies, is that two-shot explosive becomes much more desirable for heavy weapons. I'd say two-shot explosive is maybe even the most popular prefix for heavy weapons. You'll never struggle to trade them. There will always be people wanting two-shot explosive rolls on heavies. I would say maybe even vampires is better than anti-armor and bloodied for heavy weapons, in terms of how often I see them being requested on posts on Market 76 and on Facebook. I think vampire explosive heavy weapons especially. But of course, with heavy weapons as well, there are only really two third effects that are going to be commonly desired. So we'll have a look at these. I've got some god rolls. I've edited the name just so we can see them more easily. So I'll also go into the desirability of specific weapons. So here we have a bloodied 25% FFR, 15 FR flamer. So on my commando video, I mentioned that faster reload wasn't so desirable. With heavies, it's different. It's very desirable. It's the second most desirable perk, third perk. Faster fire rate, I would say, is, it's probably on par with explosive. Those are the two secondary perks that you're going to be looking for: 25% faster fire rate and explosive rounds. So we have a bloodied flamer. This is a perfectly good god roll. Flamers are always desirable. Faster fire rate and faster reload is a combination, very desirable. This is worth a solid trade. Flamers as a whole, I would put very high in terms of desired heavy weapons. So if you've got any anti-armor, bloodied, vampire two-shot versions of this weapon, with these kind of rolls, you've got a good weapon. So we've got another bloodied here. This is a pepper shaker. Pepper shakers are, I wouldn't say they're niche. They still have some desirability because there aren't that many around being traded. If you have a bloodied anti-armor vampire quad especially for a pepper shaker is desirable. Faster fire rate, perfect. If this was faster reload, brilliant. 90% reduced weight. This is the most desirable third perk on heavy weapons in terms of trade value. So this is a great gun. Yeah, pepper shakers, I wouldn't say they're as popular as the flamer we just had. but they have a niche market, and because they're fairly new, there's not as many of these available as other heavy weapons. You won't get explosive on pepper shakers. Well, you can, but they are legacy weapons now. They don't drop, and they are... If you have an explosive pepper shaker, you have one of the rarest items in the game, if not the rarest. I mean, these things go for, you know, stupid amounts of real money. If you had a pepper shaker, you could, you know, buy a car if it had an explosive effect on. Not that I am condoning that you should sell your in-game Fallout items for money, but I just thought I'd mention it. They are just ridiculously rare and hard to come by. Okay, the next one is a Cryolator. Cryolators are a bit like the pepper shaker. They've been around a long time, but they're quite niche. I'd say the only real value the Cryolator has to most people is you can freeze the queen with it and make the queen a lot easier to kill. When she lands from being up in the sky, you freeze her and she's going to stay on the ground for longer and you can kill her quickly. So there's only really one godroll of the cryo, I would say. Maybe two, but this specifically, a quad, 25% faster fire rate, 15% faster reload. If the faster reload was 90 reduced weight, I'd say it was still a great roll. I don't really see people wanting anti-armor, two-shot vampire, bloodied versions of this gun. They only really want the quad. So here we go, as I mentioned, two-shot explosive. Now, 25% less VATS action point cost is, in general, not really wanted on heavy weapons. Not many people use VATS with heavies. I do, actually, sometimes. This is an LMG. Some people use VATS with this. Some people use VATS with Gatling guns. Some people use VATS with a quad harpoon. You know, some people use VATS with a broadsider. In general, commonly, I should also mention the auto grenade launcher. If you have a specific roll of an auto grenade launcher, two-shot, 50% VATS hit chance, 25% less VATS cost, that is a really valuable heavy weapon. Just that roll specifically. But we go back to this one. Two-shot explosive, 25 LVC LMG. This would be more valuable if it was 15% faster reload or 90% reduced weight, but I just thought I'd mention that whilst not very popular on a lot of heavies, this is one that it's usable on. Here we have a minigun. Miniguns are a really, really popular heavy gun. They're fun to use. This is, I would say, the most desirable roll. Perhaps if this was a quad, it would be better. But a two-shot explosive, 90% reduced weight minigun, if this was a bloodied, if this was an anti-armor, if this was a vampire, and as I say, if it was a quad, they are all great rolls and very desirable. If you replace the 90% reduced weight with 15% faster reload, it would be, again, really valuable. If you replaced the explosive effect on this gun with 25% faster fire rate, however, I would say it wouldn't be anywhere near as valuable. For whatever reason, people like explosive effect on miniguns, and I would actually say 50 cals, LMGs, any of the already fast firing rate heavies, people tend to value explosive rounds higher than 25 FFR. Here we have something quite unique. So only recently, I'd say, miniguns with bash damage have become supremely popular. A lot of people used to know that the shredder on the barrel was a really, really good weapon for getting up close with enemies and doing massive damage, and of course you don't use any armor. Now more people have become aware of that being a thing. They've really shot up in popularity. Now there's only two prefixes that have an improvement over the base gun. One being vampires, which is this, and the other is anti-armor. If you have other versions of this, for example, a bloodied aristocrat, anything other than anti-armor or vampire, it doesn't make an improvement to the damage when you are using the shredder and the bash damage. So I'd say with this, the absolute godroll is having 90% reduced weight on either an AA or a vampire. I would also say this is a solid third, break 50% slower. So I would say that's the only other valuable one, because as you're going to be using the shredder, you're not going to be using ammo, so 15% fast reload is not at all useful. The reason we're using a bash damage 50% mini is solely to use the shredder. So any other third perk is not any use whatsoever. So yeah, I really like this. Yeah, that's all I've really got to say about that. 50 cal I would put perhaps of all the fast firing machined heavy weapons, like the 50 cal, the minigun, the light machine gun, this is the most valuable. A vampire, faster fire rate, faster reload, it's a great little combination. If this was explosive round, as I said, with the mini, it would be more valuable. Faster fire rate to me is just a bit less popular than explosive rounds on heavies. 50 cals though, really good. If you had an anti-armor version of this, as I said before with most, if this had 90% reduced weight, it would be worth even more. Gatling plasmas, I would say probably the most desirable heavy weapon. They look cool, they have really insane damage. They've just got a bit of the wow factor. People love using these. This is a great roll. People love vampires on GPs. Faster fire rate, faster reload. Again, if this was 90% reduced weight, it would be even more valuable. If this was an anti-armor, I've seen the desirability of anti-armor GPs go up in recent months. If this was bloodied, it'd be really desirable. Two shot, still desirable, but maybe not as desirable as what I've just mentioned. So yeah, I think quad faster fire rate Gatling plasmas are now a legacy. I know that quad faster fire rate Gatling lasers are now a legacy. So I think is it anything that uses a core as an ammo type? If you have quad versions of that now, they are legacy. I think that's it. Anything that uses a core as ammo, quad versions are now legacy. I apologize if that's wrong, but I think that's the case. Gatling guns are kind of niche. As I say, some people like using them in VATs. I do. Specifically, vampire explosive versions of this has quite a niche market. I've seen quite a few people wanting VE 15% faster reload or 90 RW versions of this, AAE versions of this, and TSE BE versions will always have some value. There we do have a VE 90 Gatling gun. That's a nice little pairing. So they're the ones I tagged. Let's see what else I have. So I have a lot of auto grenade launchers here. Auto grenade launchers, a lot of people like to use with 50% VATS hit chance. I don't do PvP, but I think they're a really good PvP weapon. People really prefer two-shot versions of auto grenade launchers over anything though. I don't really see any other versions of these trading. I think, yeah, this is the only two-shot AGL I have, which in my eyes kind of seems like a fun weapon. I think the 25% damage while aiming effect is only ever semi-desirable on heavies. No other weapon type has any trade value with it on. Even heavies is a stretch. You don't often see people posting these for trade, and you don't really see people asking for them. But if anything, you know, a lot of heavy weapons you ain't going to be using in VATs, so 25 damage while aiming is going to be an effect that, you know, has some usability with heavies. But as I say, if you have an auto grenade launcher that is 2-shot with 50% VATS hit chance and 25% less VATS action cost, that is a really desirable exact roll. What else do we have here that's a bit fun? In fact, what other heavy weapons have we not looked at? There's one right off the bat. Missile launchers. I'm not too knowledgeable on missile launchers. They're kind of slow and the ammo's insanely heavy. Again, I don't think people use these in VATS much, but I might be wrong. Faster fire rate, I believe, is kind of redundant on them, with the fire rate being insanely low already. So in my eyes, this is kind of an interesting roll with the 25% damage while aiming, because like if it was a fat man, I guess I would want 25% damage while aiming. That's pretty much the only secondary perk I would want on a missile launcher or a fat man. And again, 90% reduced weight is definitely the top. If it was 15% faster reload, that's, you know, a semi-good second one. What else haven't we looked at? M79 grenade launcher. I really don't have too much knowledge on these. Whether or not the VATS hit chance is and 25% less VATS action cost, is that a good combination? I'm not 100% sure. I think if this was again like the auto grenade, if this was a 2-shot, 50% VATS hit chance, 25% less VATS action cost, I think that would be really valuable. Yeah, I think it's kind of weird. I think with heavies that use explosive rounds, grenade rounds, the damage increase you get with 2-shot compared to any other prefix is kind of insane. But I think it's specifically to do with grenade launching weapons. I'm going to wait for so many people in the community to correct me on some of these, because heavy weapons have never been my strong point. I've only just started using builds with them just to be a bit different. Harpoon guns. Harpoon gun is just so stupidly slow to fire. It's kind of like the broadsider. I have a legacy harpoon gun that I just obtained recently, and I absolutely love it. It's an explosive version with 25% less VATS action point cost. And I've been using it in just one shot, blowing everything into chunks, and it is just so much fun. But I've not really played around much with just regular versions of the gun. I would much rather have a quad version of this than anything. For me, the other prefixes are just too slow to use to even warrant contemplating trading it. Unless, of course, it's a legacy. So just remember, if you have a harpoon gun that has an explosive effect, it is a legacy weapon. Is that all the heavy guns? Like I say, I've just not talked about the broadsider. Actually, a trader on Market 76 gave me a 2-shot 50% VATS hit chance broadsider to try yesterday, because he said it was just really powerful and really good, and he was right. Again, it harks back to that thing I've been saying about 2-shot being very useful on heavy weapons. I think the damage increase you get on 2-shot is clearly much greater than if you were using any other weapon type. So maybe that's something to look out for, a broadsider with 2-shot and 50% VATS hit chance with 90% reduced weight or 15% faster reload. That would be a lovely piece. So that's it really. Heavy guns are really easy to categorize into god rolls. As I say, I'm sure I've made a few mistakes there, but that should give you some basic info on how to value your heavy weapons for trading. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.